Hello, welcome to 2021. I'm Joanna with Blissful Baby Sleep Coaching, and I've got my mascot here. Let's see, I can't, I always get confused. There he is. There's Hansi. He's my big, giant, fluffy standard poodle who definitely loves to attend some of these Facebook Lives with me, which he's a great companion during COVID. So I am excited to talk to you guys because I have a fabulous question today from Melanie, who has a 6-month-old child, and she's got a really great question that is absolutely relative to so many of the challenges that a lot of my current clients are having. So right now I have many clients, but I have 5 separate clients that all have 6-month-old babies that have basically come to the point where they were so utterly exhausted that they could not continue to go forward, and really needed some support to help get better sleep. And Melanie's question reminds me very much about what these 5 families have been contending with. And one thing I just want to call out is that all the mothers that were pregnant at the beginning of COVID back in March and have now since been raising a newborn as we continue to struggle with COVID in our daily life, I have so much tremendous empathy and compassion for the expansive challenges that represents. And I think one of the reasons why there's so many moms that are extra challenged at 6 months in terms of just pure utter exhaustion and being depleted and searching for answers is because parenting in COVID is so incredibly difficult. So if you were at the last stages of your pregnancy and you brought a newborn into the world, there's fear, there's anxiety, your support networks are less than they've ever been. If you have older children, the playgrounds are closed, the daycares are closed, the play circles are closed. Being able to get together with family friends or to hire the babysitter or to feel comfortable with other individuals coming into your home to help you has just fallen away. And what you're left with is just typically your immediate nuclear family. And if you're a first-time mom and this is your first baby, there's already a gigantic learning curve. And now you don't even have, the support network of, immediate friends and neighbors and family. But now you don't even have the opportunity to go out and meet new mothers and have that face-to-face connection and share stories and share struggles and get advice, so that you could actually understand that the struggles that you're having are similar to others and that there's always a solution, right? Because mothers in the land of COVID are incredibly isolated, especially first-time moms that don't even have the networks built in. And then for the moms that have multiple children, of course, then it becomes this massive challenge to caretake multiple children simultaneously, with just, again, the nuclear family, because the resource, the ability to expand your network is so limited, especially depending on where you live. I'm personally here in California, and we have essentially been on perpetual lockdown since March. And other states have gone in and out of that as well. So I just want to first shout out to all the mothers that were still pregnant during COVID, like currently pregnant, were pregnant, or had their babies, and are raising those babies in the first year in COVID, and those mamas that are pregnant right now in anticipation of having their baby as we continued on. And I just want to say, be brave, carry on, find those great places to give you accurate and reliable information so that you can get the help you need. And that's why I'm so happy that Melanie wrote in today, because again, her concerns and her challenges echo so many families right now, and there is hope and there is help available. So with that being said, I'm going to share with you what Melanie wants to know all about, and hopefully I'll be able to give Melanie some fabulous insight and perspective where she's able to feel more comfortable and confident with how she can move forward. Okay, so I'm going to give you some backstory just so that you can get a point of context. So again, Melanie's child is 6 months old, and at the onset of sleep at bedtime, she will nurse, and then she will place the child in the crib. And then in order to help the baby go to sleep, she'll use the pacifier, and she'll also use some back padding. Okay, so that's the onset of sleep at bedtime. But then as the night proceeds, she says the baby wakes up every 1 to 2 hours starting around 10:30 p.m. And it's required that she go back in and do some passy, I call it the passy replug, do some passy replug and some back padding on top of that. She does not remove him from the crib unless it's time to feed, and she will feed twice a night, both at 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. However, she does feel ready to drop one or both of those feeds. Okay. The good news is the naps are going well in her life. And by the way, you guys, when we're looking at nighttime sleep and what your nighttime goals, we always also have to kind of take a peek at what's happening during the daytime sequence, because day affects night and night affects day. And it's all part of the complex puzzle of being able to get really good sleep for your family. And so she says naps can be short, but overall, she doesn't feel like she has to work that hard to get decent naps. She said this, and she hasn't told me. Yeah, she says he's a boy. But she didn't tell me his name. So she said the baby boy has never been a very good sleeper. He's gone through some phases when he only woke once to eat, but now we're back to multiple wakings. So she's wondering, like, why is that? Why were things like on track and now they're kind of like sliding backwards? So I'm going to address that. And then she said, how should I handle multiple wake-ups outside of designated feeding times? I have tried feeding earlier and it doesn't make a difference. He still is waking frequently. So in other words, she probably tried to like offer a dream feed, hoping that he wouldn't wake up at 2 if she did a feed at 11, but yet she has to feed at 11 and then he wakes up still at 2 and still wakes up at 5. And the reason why she wants to solve this and get some accurate and reliable information on how to move forward is because she's really, really tired right now, of course, and she really wants to feel better rested so she can be more focused at work. And yeah, let's not forget about the COVID moms that still only had their short maternity leave and had to go back to work, potentially in person or working from home and trying to juggle, being great on all the millions of Zoom calls and then turn around and be a great mom. Because there's no doubt that being on Zoom all day is really exhausting in a way that I don't think anyone has ever been prepared for. And there's lots of really interesting brain studies on that. But anyways, I digress. Okay, so let's tackle this for Melanie. And Melanie, if you are here, feel free to, as I'm kind of walking through this, pop in with some additional questions, or if I ask you a question, for you to pop in and reflect on it, because I want to make sure that we definitely make you feel like you understand where to go from here. Okay, so again, you guys, everything, when you're looking at baby's sleep, you always want to start looking at it from what is happening at the onset of sleep at bedtime. So you're always wanting to say to yourself, okay, number one, going into bedtime, number one, did my babies have good naps? Okay, for a 6-month-old, you want to aim to get at least 3 to 4 naps, totaling at least 3 hours of daytime sleep between 3 and 4 naps. So in other words, it's okay if nap number 1 was 20 minutes, nap number 2 was an hour, nap number 3 was 45 minutes, and maybe you were lucky enough to even sneak in a nap number 4, and you just want to make sure that that sleep tank is greater than 3 hours of daytime sleep spread between as many naps as you can get before bedtime. So again, going into bedtime, you always want to say, did my baby get good daytime sleep? Did I fill the sleep tank? The second question you want to ask yourself is, did I nail the sleep window? I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about that because there's been other Facebook Lives where I've spent extensive time explaining sleep windows. But you want to make sure that your baby does not go into the crib too drowsy. Okay. And then so she's saying that she nurses her baby, but then places in the crib awake. So that's great. However, Melanie, when you say that you do the passy and the back padding, that makes me wonder if you are back padding until your child is dead asleep. So in other words, if you're nursing and getting your child really drowsy and then kind of finishing them off with the padding, and the passy replug until your child is dead asleep, then unfortunately what you're doing is you're actually creating sleep crutches at the onset of sleep at bedtime, which is fine, except that it becomes very difficult to remove the sleep crutches at the other wakings if you haven't yet removed the sleep crutches at the onset of sleep at bedtime. So if you're here, Melanie, if you could let me know if after you plug the passy and give your child a couple of nice pats, do you just go hands off and does your child fall asleep 100% by themselves? So if you're here, I would love to hear that. Because that's the first thing we need to know. So then she says to me, okay, now he's asleep, but he's waking up every 1 to 2 hours. And obviously she has to go back in and do the pacifier and more back patting. And she wants to remove that effort around the non-feeding arousals. Okay. So again, what we have to look at is that, remember, there are 3 skills that a child must learn in order to have independent sleep. They have to learn how to self-regulate, self-settle, and self-soothe. And they have to be able to do that at the onset of sleep, after great daytime naps, and at the right sleep window. And they have to be able to go to sleep without any sleep crutches. And if they start to master that, drowsy but awake at the onset of sleep, using their sleep skills, regulate, settle, soothe, then there is an opportunity for the child to be able to use that same skill set at the non-feeding arousals in the middle of the night. So Melanie, before you start trying to ask your baby to go back to sleep themselves without a sleep crutch on the non-nursing arousals, it's super important that you make sure that your child is doing drowsy but awake at the onset of sleep at bedtime. So if you're here, Melanie, I would love, love, love to have you chime in and give me some feedback on what's really happening at the onset of sleep at bedtime. Okay. Now, I'm going to assume, since I haven't heard yet from Melanie, I'm going to assume that indeed her son is going to bed drowsy but awake at the onset of sleep at bedtime at the right sleep window. I'm going to make that assumption because that's the beginning of the learning. All the learning begins at the onset of sleep at bedtime. Okay. So then she says, okay, how can I basically go down from 4 or 5 wakings per night, where 2 of those I'm going in and nursing? How can I first get rid of the 3 non-nursing arousals? How can I get rid of the 3 non-nursing arousals? And then also, how can I get rid of the 2 other nursing? So I'm going to try to address that for you, Melanie. And Melanie just wrote in, she says, we're multitasking. I have my toddler. Okay. So see, she's one of the COVID mommies that, you know, pregnant, gave birth during COVID while simultaneously taking care of probably a 2 or 3-year-old. So hard. So you have my greatest empathy for being a fabulous mom during this very difficult time. Okay. So this is the first thing. So remember that until a child knows how to do drowsy but awake at the onset of sleep, they are not going to be able to learn how to use that same skill set at the non-nursing arousals. So you're going to have to do, Melanie, some sleep training around making sure that your child is 100% drowsy but awake at the onset of sleep, so that you can then encourage them to do that same thing on the non-nursing arousals. So you're going to have to do some sleep training around that. And then the way that you can do that is, just to kind of give a visual here, and I hope this makes sense, is gosh, it's so hard it's like backwards on StreamYard. So let's see if I can do this so that it makes sense for you guys. Okay. Oh my gosh, I feel everything is like backwards. Okay. So here you are at the onset of sleep. You will always do a bedtime feed at the onset of sleep. The key is you do not want the child to get too drowsy at the nursing, because unfortunately, if you put your child in the crib too drowsy, they will actually cry louder, longer, and harder when they're trying to fall asleep without sleep crutches. So when people say put your child into the crib drowsy but awake, 5 or 6 on the drowsy scale, That's why they say that. It is always better to make the air of being more awake going into the crib than more drowsy to avoid tears. The other reason why is that then your child will be having the emotional resilience to settle and soothe when they are more awake. They have more emotional resilience. And then what you do is that you say to yourself, like, okay, for her, she's willing to nurse twice a night. So you would say, okay, I am going to do what we call a set time feed. I will only nurse him at 4-hour intervals, and I will help and I will support him to go back to sleep in between all those other nurses without padding or doing a passy replug. That whatever skills he's practicing at the onset of sleep at bedtime, where he's helping himself go to sleep, I'm going to make him use those same skills for himself in the middle of the night between the non-nursing arousals. So you would set yourself up and say to yourself, okay, I'm only willing to nurse him at 4-hour intervals. And then that way you can start to kind of gauge how hungry he really is. Because when the nursings become floaty, meaning like sometimes he wakes up at 11 and sometimes he wakes up at 2 and sometimes he wakes up at 3 and sometimes he wakes up at 5:30. When they start to float like that, unfortunately, you end up turning on the body's expectation to expect calories at multiple times a night. So that's why moving to a set time feed can be really helpful. Once you move to a set time feed, then all the other arousals in between these feeds will start to drift away. And all you'll be left with is the 2 nursings that you had that should be at that point either really easy and efficient, meaning he wakes up, you give him a nurse, he falls back asleep, and it's really easy. Then you can start to pay attention to say, well, is he really hungry at those nursings? Because usually with a child at 6 months, you'll start to notice, well, maybe he's not that hungry at the first feed, but he's super hungry at the second. So then that gives you the kind of the headway to say to myself, okay, I'm going to drop that first feed. And so that's when you go do a new set time feed where you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do a bedtime feed, but I am not going to feed him. I'm going to make him stretch to at least a 6-hour mark or a 7-hour mark from the bedtime feed. And I will only feed him once at that night after that, 6 or 7-hour mark. And then that way you land with just one feed in the middle of the night. And you watch to see if that feed stays in kind of a neutral spot. Like, again, you want it to land usually right around the same time each night, because you don't want it to start floating. So in other words, if you say to yourself, I'm not going to feed him before midnight, then you really have to stick to that. And then if he starts waking up at 1, then you can feed him at 1. If he starts waking up at 3, then you have to start feeding him at 3, not 1 o'clock, right? Because sometimes babies will literally move this. And like they'll first, when you move to the 1 set time feed, they'll like make it to 12 midnight. Then all of a sudden they make it to 3 o'clock in the morning. And then all of a sudden they make it to 5 in the morning. And you can see here that if your baby starts sleeping essentially through the night until around 5:15, that's usually a signal that you can drop that last feed because they've almost made it the whole night. And you really don't want to have your last feed get anchored in the early rising hour, because then it always is perpetuating the child to wake early. And so then that one would be the last one that you could either let him wean himself and sleep through, or you could actually make a decision to pull it once it starts landing consistently around the 5 or 5:30 time frame. And then, you get to phase 4, which is, as you can see, and I'm sorry, this is so weird because it's like backwards. Congratulations, your baby was able to sleep, without a feed in the middle of the night. So, how long will that typically take with a 6-month-old? I usually give my families about 10 to 14 days to go from multiple feeds to no feeds, because I like to taper down gently and slowly, because obviously I am, a gentle sleep coach. So I don't believe in cried out. I don't believe in forcing solutions on babies. So we're extremely mindful to maintain the nursing relationship that the mom has worked so hard to establish. And we also want to help that baby, gently wean those nursings in the middle of the night, so those calories actually shift to the daytime shift. And actually what's so fantastic about doing some weaning, nighttime weaning for babies, is that those calories that they were getting from you in the middle of the night, those calories will shift and move over to the daytime shift. And you'll find that your child will actually eat better during the day. They might be more motivated for solids, or they might take more productive nursings during the day instead of like snacky snack nursing. So it can be an extremely positive transition for the child as well as the mother getting consolidated sleep. So you don't have to give up your nursing relationship just because you're choosing to do less middle of the night nursings. Nursing moms will always do a bedtime feed, and they will always do a feed in the morning, and they will also feed on whatever feeding schedule they prefer during the day. And then, by looking at my, how to wean down appropriately, you can do this, within an under 2 weeks, which is very nurturing to the baby. It's very thoughtful and considerate to the baby. And it's also thoughtful and considerate to your nursing relationship. And it also helps the mom wean down slowly so she doesn't end up with any kind of mastitis infection or anything like that, because all of this is important, right? And so, obviously, before you do any kind of weaning, you want to absolutely talk to your pediatrician and make sure that your child's weight and development is suggesting that they're ready to gently wean some of their middle of the night feeds. Also, if you have a relationship with a lactation consultant, which I think all nursing moms should have, that, like that person kind of on speed dial. I think it's such an important asset. Like I believe that every mom should have obviously a pediatrician, a relationship with a lactation consultant, a relationship with a sleep coach, just so they know who they can turn to for accurate and reliable information, and that they have somebody they can talk to live if they ever needed to. Maybe they never need to, but it sure is nice to know who to call if and you had access to them. And then obviously I'm kind of holistic, so I love pediatric chiropractors to kind of have a built-in relationship with someone there as well. And then if you have a doula, even better. That's even like bonus. And a mother's helper. Like, let's just like add to the wish list. No, but it's COVID, so it's so hard right now. But so many things can still be done digitally, so mothers can feel really supported. And it is all possible, Melanie. I just think that you have to kind of go back and ask yourself, what am I going to do at bedtime first? And then get really clear on making those set time feeds go down to your deliberate nursings, because right now they're at 2 and 5. And I feel like that's they're almost too close together. So, you might be able to actually deliberately go down to the 1 feed and say, I'm only going to feed him once, anytime after, 2 a.m. and then help him learn his sleep skills at all the arousals in between. Once he's learned his sleep skills at all the arousals between that 1 feed, then of course you could think about dropping that feed. But that's what I would do first. I always like to try to help the baby consolidate the arousals in between the feeds, and then we drop the feeds kind of bit by bit. So I hope that was helpful to you, and I wish you the best of luck. And oh, great. Okay, so this is nice. Let me pop this up. Melanie said, my pediatrician says he's ready to drop the feeds and gave me your card. Okay, I love getting referrals from pediatricians, and she's at Houston, and that's great. Yes, I have several pediatricians that are very loyal because they love my gentle sleep coaching philosophy and my gentle weans and all, and how I take good care of my families. Yeah. So Melanie, it's like this. It's something you can absolutely do on your own. If you were to do it on your own, because it is going to require a bit of sleep training, I would absolutely recommend getting this book, which is Good Night, Sleep Tight by Kim West. Okay. And you do not have to read the whole book. I would just recommend reading the section on understanding tears, which is awesome. I think it's on page 12. It's like a page and a half, and I would have your husband read it too. In fact, when you think about sleep training, you guys, this is a family decision, and husbands have to be involved in the process. And it always goes better when dads are involved, and it always goes better when you approach it in a very mindful, methodical way, plan it out, know when you're starting, know what your plan is, know what role each person plays. So you want to read Understanding Tears, and then you would want to read the section on six-month-olds, and you would want to follow the Sleep Lady Shuffle to help your baby learn drowsy but awake at bedtime, and also how to use those same sleep skills in between the feeds. And then as they get better at that, then when you remove the feed, it becomes very easy for them to use those same sleep skills in order to go back to sleep without a feed. Okay. Those of you that are not do it yourself and you're like, I just want to talk to you, I want you to tell me exactly what to do and how to do it and when to do it, then absolutely. I do something called sleep strategy sessions, where you can schedule a 45-minute Zoom video session with me. And I always recommend that your partner's on the call, always, because again, I believe it's a family decision. And we talk about what the nature of your child's sleep crutches are and how we are going to unwind those. And then, what kind of level of support you might want to go step by step, day by day, being able to talk to me and have me review your sleep logs and guide you and coach you through that process. So working with me one-on-one is always a possibility as well, Melanie. And many moms lately with COVID are like, I just need the support because I'm just so overwhelmed by just trying to live my life in the land of COVID that, I know I'm capable of doing it myself, but frankly, I am so tired that I can't stay consistent unless someone's telling me what to do and why to do it. Or moms are telling me, like, me and my husband are arguing, and I hate the fact that we're arguing over something that we already agree upon, which is we want our child to sleep well for healthy growth and development. So we need somebody to help me and my husband get on the same page so that we can work together as a team and be successful at helping our child learn their sleep skills for lifelong sleep habits. So don't be afraid to reach out for help. That's, I guess, what I'm basically trying to say. So in fact, let me pull something up here in case you guys want to reach out to me to schedule a sleep strategy session. You just would fill out this form, and then I will be in contact with you on how to get on my calendar. So I'm going to put that in the chat. Okay, so Melanie, if you are still here, is there any other questions, thoughts, concerns? Obviously, it's difficult to try to tell you exactly how to sleep train your baby because I don't know a lot about him, and I am very into customizing for children because I think every family is unique and every baby's unique, and the child's temperament and who they are matters tremendously on exactly how we're going to do it. But okay, so Melanie said, all right, thank you so much. So I'm hoping to have offered you clarity. Don't be afraid to reach out for further clarity. And again, for those mamas that are out there who are pregnant or just gave birth or are raising a baby in their first year of life during COVID, you have my complete empathy and compassion. I hope things get easier in 2021. And I'm always here if you guys need some expert insight and support on how to be a well-rested family, because my whole thing is sleep is bliss for you, your child, and your whole family. Okay. It's hard to be a happy family when you're sleep deprived. So well-rested family. Thanks so much, you guys. I hope to see you next week, and you can always ask questions and I will be here to hot seat coach you. Bye.